T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a most important Midheaven podcast episode, of Hermes and Hades. We're back, the underworld heavenly duo. It's your boy, the Peace Dealer, Holler. And I am here, of course, with Beyond the Veil Tarot.
Thank you for the very formal introduction, better known as Candace.
Yes, yes, BK.
Yeah, Happy to be back. We're super stoked. Kind of pushing hard for season 2, bringing you guys all kinds of new content, trying to stay up to date. Hopefully you guys are liking what we're putting out there. Please don't forget to smash the bell button below so you get alerts when we are putting videos out there. Thank you very much. So we touched on this a little bit. I mean, Mike and I really went deep into the most important aspects and transits in all of 2022 in the videos that we put out in the new year. If you guys haven't already checked those out, please do. Now we want to talk to you guys about the nodes of the moon changing signs, which is also ushering in a whole new set of eclipses in Scorpio and Taurus.
A whole new age.
All right, so let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about
Yes.
the nodes changing signs. Obviously, it looks like that's going to be happening. If you want to get technical, they exactly start changing signs in the morning of January 18th, 2022. That's the true node. So if you guys work with the mean node, some people are like, it's already there.
Ew. I'm a true noter.
Yeah, I'm a true noter too. But I mean, we kind of got some early insight into what the North Node in Taurus is going to kind of feel like. I guess that's a good way to explain it. Because we had an eclipse that was in Taurus in
You're right.
mid-November. So right around the 19th, we had that North Node in Taurus conjunction, or the eclipse, the full moon eclipse. And it was very close to the node. It was an out of sign, but it was, I think, around 26 and change. So we may start to see the full effects of that here pretty shortly when the North Node conjuncts that point.
Oh, God. I mean, I've just fully accepted that this North Node Taurus transit is officially, definitively, and completely the beginning of the social revolution of the individual. It didn't hit me until just now that it's like 0 degrees Gemini, but like everything that we've gone through since the South Node in Pisces has been preparation for the South Node in Scorpio. And I'm really glad that your sun is in Scorpio with Pluto, because
I'm not.
Oh, that's
Not
some real
for the next
shit.
year and a half,
That's some
but-
real shit right there. It's coming for you, Scorpios. Go find a Sagittarius and be like, what happened to you?
And it's weird
What
for me
happened
because
to you?
it's in my second house.
Ooh.
So it's also got this very like Taurus energy. So let's talk a little bit about just the North and South Node in general, just so people
sure.
kind of get a feel for maybe like what that feels like. Maybe we can speak on experience through like nodal transits, and then obviously we can probably even go through the signs and talk about how it's going to affect each and every one of the signs. We'll do more as the year goes on. So when we get back into eclipse season in April, May, we'll be doing videos on that and let you know exactly kind of the aspects of those eclipses and what you might expect. So what's your hot take on just like, if you had to put it in like layman's terms, like the North and the South Node in the chart?
No, the nodes have been definitively noticeable and just like impactful in everyone's life, but in my life especially because they're in my angular houses. So like it's been easy for me to really hone in on to the nature of it. If I never believed in something as abstract as destiny, the nodes forced me to believe in destiny. Every Aqua and Leo I know, kind of harp in, like Leos alone forced me indirectly to just like be 100% accepting of the fact that we have past lives, because I've been struggling with that for a long time. Like,
because of your South Node in Leo.
That, yes, because of my South Node in Leo, and like there's the familiarity with every Leo sun or moon I meet, but like the whole concept that I've existed before this incarnation, I used to compromise and be like, okay, South Node is really just like early childhood behavior, because I also believe that quantumly every timeline is happening at once. So I wasn't really into past lives, but the South Node made me a believer, and the North Node, of course, the next life destiny, like. Because I personally have it in the 10th house, like I've felt how the South Node can potentially hold you back, and having to like move forward from family expectation to come into my true node, the North Node. So that has been one of the things I've taken so seriously. The reason why I even know Candace right now is because
your South Node.
Right, the South Node was transiting my 10th in Pisces, and I met Lada, and I met you. So like it changed the game for your boy. So,
which is crazy. I think about like the transits that were happening for me at that time. I mean, it's interesting. Like, you know, obviously depending on the kind of astrology you believe in or you're into, people are going to have different perspectives. The nodes are not planets. They're markers in the sky. They're calculated based off of, they're the moon's lunar nodes. So South Node meaning where there may be loss, material, emotional, spiritual, what have you, depends on the placement and the sign, but where there's spiritual gain, right? So you think of like losing something, but what you learn or what you gain from that. It can also be about bringing in kind of like the yummy good karma from past life experiences. So if you're somebody who has had like very noticeable South Node synastry with somebody, you can see how that plays out, right? Like if you've got like a Venus or a Sun or maybe like a Moon South Node conjunction with somebody else, it's like, oh, we've been here before, we're friends, it just clicks. So that South Node can be that feeling of what clicks, or if we're not doing our North Node, we may feel it in a way of like, oh, that's being taken away from me. So once again, it really depends on the sign and the house. The North Node is more kind of like smoky, strange, mysterious, unknown, futuristic. It's kind of like a wild card. And generally speaking, when I talk to people, something I've noticed over the years is like usually like that one thing that you're either terrified of doing, or you don't know how to do it, or you just can't quite comprehend doing that North Node work. That's usually, it's usually your North Node. So it's like, I don't know if I could ever get into a relationship. I don't know if I could ever launch my own business. I don't know if I really want to travel the world.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's a definitive challenge. And something very important about what you said is that, you know, when you're in the South Node, it's comfortable. People like you. When you step into your North Node, people start to not like you because you're challenging the status quo.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of that in this last year.
But you need your South Node to accomplish your North Node. That's also...
Yeah, so it's kind of like a balancing act, right? Of like knowing what to kind of bring from the past into the future. And you can have, obviously you're going to have like an anchored or like a locked in North and South Node in your natal chart. But the nodes of the moon are also always moving. So they'll also retrograde. They'll move forward, move backwards, move forward. And they change signs about every 18 months. So we're coming out of having had the North Node of Gemini, really amplifying communication, two sides to stories, fact-checking, so on and so forth. South Node in Sag, kind of like losing the sense of like righteousness, travel, lots of breakdowns with travel, education, things like that. So the North Node, for me, feels very Saturn-esque. It feels very like, you know, do that work. The South Node, to me, can feel very Jupiter-esque, where you can bring in the blessings of the past life, but also there can be a tendency to overdo something or become too comfortable or too used to something and kind of staying in your comfort zone.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And, you know, if you look in the like Vedic perspectives, like the South Node, you know, being connected to like losing one's head and never having enough, right? And just constantly consuming or...
Wait, that's the South Node?
Yeah.
I thought that was the North Node.
No, the North Node is about what you're super fixated on bringing in, but the South Node is headless. So yeah, the South Node doesn't have a head.
So the North Node isn't the one where you're like too obsessed with.
Well, no, you are obsessed, but the South Node, you can never get enough of something. So it's like it's like a bottomless pit.
Right.
So you can fall too.
That's why you can get stuck there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and you can literally look at it in a sense of the nodes, which look like horseshoes. You know, like the South Node looks like a pit. The North Node has the shape of a head. So, you know, I think the North Node is great in a sense of like showing us like, hey, this is what's possible. But the North Node can also have this kind of other side to it where it's like so radical and so different and so obsessed and fixated that it's like your obsession. You just can't you can't get enough.
So it keeps you up at night.
I guess you can see it with both of the nodes. When I kind of phrase it,
it's like two different forms of the same thing. Yeah. And, you know, if we talk about the signs that they're in, this is what really blew my mind. Because a deeper appreciation of the zodiac signs really reveal all the answers. So we know that Taurus is individual, but we know that Scorpio is social. So significantly, this is going to be one of the most impactful node shifts, because since the South Node in Virgo, North Node in Virgo, Pisces, Aqua, Sagittarius, Scorpio, Pisces, Aqua, Capricorn, Sagittarius are collective zodiac signs. So those nodal transits since 2017-ish, give or take, were all collective. If you think about everything that happened in 2017, it was all in preparation for this reset. And a lot of global themes where, especially during social media, a lot more of the world are reacting to events. And so this is the first nodal shift since then where that South Node comes out of Sag into Scorpio. And because we have revolution in Taurus, that's kicking off that revolution of the individual. And, I'm really grateful that, I know you're dreading it, but someone like you is going to be extremely aware of the social shifts where everything collectively is now specific to you. Everything you've been reading about in the news is specific to you more so.
Well, I think it's interesting, just like the nodal shift literally begins with the sun still in conjunction to Pluto, right? Right on the heels of a full moon that was in opposition to Pluto, and the Sun-Pluto conjunction sextiles the South Node. So just for reference, for the next year and a half, we really want to pay attention to Mars-Venus transits.
Wow.
So Mars-Venus conjunctions, Mars-Venus squares, Pluto, Mars conjunctions, Venus-Pluto conjunctions. So we're going to see like Mars and Venus move alongside each other the first couple of months of the year, which I feel like is interesting because it does represent this unity of working and utilizing both the North and the South Node.
Yeah.
I'm not thrilled about the North Node being conjunct Algol, and I'm not thrilled about the North Node being conjunct Ceres. For me, I see two sides of it, where just point blank, it's like very black magic energy. And I actually had a conversation with somebody recently today. We were talking about how and I'm not talking about being brainwashed per se, maybe, but just that there's been this overwhelming sense of clients that we have both noticed, where we have just been talking to people, and it's like there's like this bewitchment where it's like the way that they're talking and the way that they're repeating themselves, and they're becoming really obsessive and very fixated, or very possessive, or very jealous, or very money driven, and almost kind of to a point of like being really brutal.
Ooh. Right?
Very Algol to me. And Algol having its associations also just with black magic, with losing one's head, and also materialism, right? Greed, right? So, that off the bat with the conjunction to Ceres makes me feel like suicides, people slitting their throats, hangings, people losing their head over financial matters, or like suicide and the topics of overdoses and things like that being real problems, okay? Because it's going to be on the North Node. So I think we're going to see this uptick of these very mysterious deaths, and people who are almost like I think of like the Great Depression and like when the market crashed, like
when Uranus was in Taurus.
Yeah, and like, everybody jumped off. I lived in
After
LA
the
for like
Roaring 20s.
16 years, like the bridge they have in Pasadena. Well, during the Depression, like when the market crashed, a bunch of people jumped off that bridge. So I kind of think of like things like that, the masses in some way, because they're so consumed with what's going on with money and resources, that it's really important that we're just aware of the energies at hand right now. People want to talk about people dying from COVID. I want to talk about people dying from fentanyl overdoses because drugs are being cut with that are being pushed into the country. I want to talk about opiate uses being incredibly high, alcohol addiction. I think more people are dying from suicide, depression, and overdoses as a result of the pandemic, and nobody wants to talk about it.
Especially because it's still developing. And the most important, because this is going to be the basis around the Renaissance we're headed into, where after this Jupiter and Pisces is our first breather ever since 2020 to be like, oh, okay, we can finally talk about it. We're finally moving on from it. We can finally reflect on it. So
we'll see more of it too when we get into Pisces season. And I think when we have just a gangbusters of, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Sun, Neptune conjunctions, like there's no, without a doubt, mental health awareness, and really getting clear about the pharmaceutical companies and what we're putting in our bodies and whether or not it's actually doing us a service is going to be like a big topic, right? Toxins
absolutely.
in general, with the South Node in Scorpio. And so I guess kind of building off of that, conjunctions to Pluto are going to be important. It's, well, what is poisoning us? What is making us sick? Is it what we're eating? Is it what we're watching on the news? Is it what we're hearing? Is it our thoughts? And I think the South Node in Scorpio really kind of speaks to the willingness to remove poisons, because like that's what especially the South Node in Scorpio can do that.
Yeah. That's so true.
And I think maybe there's going to be
and expose probably toxins in what we're already being sold,
or what we're eating,
which maybe at the moment they didn't have analysis to discern, but now it's like, oh wow, we didn't even know, like this is the long-term effects of this, and could be like,
oh yeah, especially the Pluto in Scorpio generation or the Neptune in Scorpio generation. I think we're going to hear a lot about that.
That's what I wanted to ask you too. I feel like, or just mention, I feel like Pluto Scorpios, and I didn't even think about it, but Neptune Scorpio especially, but really Pluto Scorpio, this is about to be like it for us. Like I think that's the last unlocking. And that's another thing I wanted to say. Pluto Capricorn got the South Node. Pluto Sagittarius got the South Node, but they didn't have their Saturn returns. We're the first Pluto generation to go to the South Node post Saturn return. So that's just,
I think it's interesting considering the fact that the North Node's in Taurus, so it talks a lot about fertility, the body, food, the earth, everything that is above ground, and the North Node represents what increases. So we're going to see things like food prices go up, anything grown on trees, plants, anything that's produced above ground is going to go up. But South Node in Scorpio is subterranean, so I think we might see like all kinds of shortages or drops in oil or petrol. I think we're going to see certain illnesses miraculously disappear with the trine to Neptune.
Right.
I think that because Taurus is so physical and it's the body, like I don't know about you, but I see like the zodiac as 6 signs that has polarity.
Oh, okay. I love that you said that because I believe that wholeheartedly. I just haven't really been able to expand beyond that. And I've heard that like because it's 6 signs, it explains why when you do the astrology of the southern hemisphere, it's, even though it's like opposite, it's still the same because it's just 6 signs instead of 12.
Well, especially when you think of just like the North Node in Taurus being ruled by Venus and the South Node in Scorpio being ruled traditionally by Mars. Okay, Pluto.
Right.
Mars and Venus love each other. They both want the same thing, but oftentimes they don't always get to come together. And so, in traditional mythology, wars were always over women, right? It was always over Venus. But the times that at least traditional astrologers would see Mars and Venus come together, they would say, well, it's like bedroom time, like, wars
The return of
cease.
the lovers, right?
Yeah, the lovers come together and like they're able to make love, but then when they separate and they come into oppositions or squares, generally there's like wars. So I think the North Node in Taurus really kind of speaks to love, right? What we love, but more in a personal sense. So it's what I possess, what feels good, what I need, what I eat, what I smell like. And when I look at Taurus and Scorpio, all of the signs are complementary to each other, but this one is a particularly interesting aspect because they deal with money.
Yeah.
Right? And so where Taurus is work harder, not necessarily smarter, and Taurus is like, okay, this is what I need to do, or this is mine. Scorpio goes, okay, well, let me sprinkle some magic in it and let me show you how we can make more.
Yeah.
And how we can work smarter and how we can invest or how we can expand. So
keyword invest, because Scorpio is other people's resources.
Right.
So you're literally South Node in Scorpio is using other people's resources to invest in your Uranus and Taurus NFTs, motherfucker.
If they get it. I have a feeling that I've read a lot of stuff about like recently, like some insurance companies are on the brink of bankruptcy.
Wow.
Right? Because of, natural disasters or just the amount of people who have died over the last year. I wonder if a lot of people, because of market crashes or dips, may ultimately lose inheritances, because Scorpio is inheritance. What you receive of other people's money from insurance or when they die. So I'm wondering,
8th house,
are a lot of people, and I've heard from clients, like I don't know what the deal is per each individual plan or insurance company. I'm not going to say I do, but a lot of insurance companies aren't paying out for COVID deaths.
Damn.
Right? And a lot of people are dying of COVID and they're testing positive for dying of COVID, but when in reality, more and more is coming out actually that a lot of people are more likely to die if they're overweight, if they have pre-existing issues and things like that. So they're dying, they happen to have COVID, they may die because of COVID, but they had all these pre-existing issues, and then insurance companies are like, oh no, we're not covering that.
Because it wasn't exactly COVID, that's
right.
deep.
So it's like a lot of people who lost their spouses or lost their parents or whatever may not have those benefits. The South Node in Scorpio may not necessarily rain down resources on a lot of people. I think we're going to find that it's going to be much more challenging to, like I said, get loans, get credit cards, to be able to live on credit. We're going to find that when it comes to pooled resources like the markets, right? It's not going to be as easy to participate. This may be something that's harder to get involved in. But the North Node in Taurus is saying, well, what can I grow, right? What food can I grow for myself? Or how can I focus on making my own food, making my own clothes, building my own backyard garden or shed or house?
Or farm.
Or what are my resources and what are my natural talents?
And, Uranus is innovating this to a quality where you may not even have to pay taxes. Because you won't spend U.S. dollars. You'll have your own currency that works. And this is the age where now they told you that if you play video games all day, you know what I'm saying? Even though people now are making money with video games, but like you can literally make an entire living in a metaverse with an in-game currency. You wouldn't have to, it's a job, but it's not even like here. It's like in a metaverse, and that's going to change the game.
I do have to admit, there are some extraordinary aspects in the midst of these nodal transits. Extraordinary. Watching, both Jupiter and Neptune at some point come together and trine the South Node in Scorpio, I think may be massive death. But with that, a spiritual awakening and realizing that death is just the beginning. You drop the physical body, but it really takes you to the next adventure.
And just to kind of reference that, because remember, this is Queen Hades saying this, all right? The Scorpio knows about death, right? But it's not really, she's not really just pulling this out of thin air. The last time Pluto was here, you had, people come from a different country and disease sweep through millions of people. And, to think that disease has killed millions of people, it's just the beginning. So, like, this is where there were revolutionary wars that killed millions of people. So the last time Pluto was here and Uranus was there, we had a mass death. So
yeah, especially with Pluto and Aquarius, I think that we're still going to see more of that.
Do you think it'll be more than the last cycle? Well, there's more people, so I guess.
Yes, but I also feel like, Taurus is about fertility, right? It's about reproducing. It's about the physical body and the health and the wellness. It's like spring. And then Scorpio is like really about being able to actually, I say, conceive. So I think that there's going to be some real rude awakenings about the fact that we, especially the Neptune and Scorpio people, the Pluto and Scorpio, the Neptune in Scorpio and the Pluto and Scorpio people, who have had all kinds of reproductive issues, right? So girls who have been having their period when they're 8, 9, 10 years old, girls who are having all kinds of menstrual issues, and this realization that, oh shit, for the better part of our life, we've been eating food that's been wrapped in plastic. We're eating food now that is genetically modified. And now we're going to start finding that they're going to start offering us meat specifically, or beef, that is going to be genetically modified and also grown in a lab. Uranus in Taurus on the North Node,
engineered food, is
going to be engineered food. And so it may not be, oh, here's a beef steak. It's going to be like, well, here's something that we grew in a petri dish. This is beef.
And to be, I don't want to be conspiracy theory. I'm not talking about the mark of the beast. You need to get comfortable with the fact that we are phasing out contact paper currency. Like, you're gonna have like a microchip or like a card or like an eye that augments digital reality into everything you do. This is an extraordinary technological advancement, so it's going to happen
if you choose to participate.
Well, here's the thing, because Saturn Uranus, right, in Gemini is going to make it mainstream. So like there's a whole generation of people born after 2000 that weren't like the 90s and 80s who played outside and had fax machines. So the people, the older generation, are going to be like, we want this, but like there's a whole new generation of people who will see this as normal. And that's who they're targeting, right?
Right.
So, it is going to be phased out. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but it is something to keep in mind because it is coming into a whole new paradigm. Hopefully the people who are enforcing that have integrity and not ulterior motives. But like, this is inevitable, just like the fact that we have smartphones now, right? So,
well, the North Node in
and we're
Taurus
already cyborgs.
is also about wealth, right?
Yes.
So it's wealth, so it's money, and where I say this is like extraordinary aspects is just the fact that we off the bat, in April, May are going to see, Saturn and a gangbusters of planets in Aquarius square the node. So some kind of limitation, lockdown, innovation, plan for the future, plan for the masses is going to come about in the spring of 2022, which will then come full circle when Uranus conjuncts the North Node at the end of July, beginning of August of 2022. And there will be some mass global rollout or possibly the beginning of an acceptance of some digital currency.
Yeah.
Right? That's what's coming. So,
Bitcoin?
Dogecoin. I think that the Saturn square Uranus, it's really heavy in the fall of this year. And I think you're going to see this just great divide. And whether this is like the boomers that are like, I'm staying with the stock market, I'm buying gold, I'm keeping hard earned cash, or it's going to be the people who are like, yeah, but I'm trading NFTs and I'm also like mining crypto and trading coins, or people who are going to say like, fuck this system. I'm not going to get a chip. I'm going to grow my own food. I'm going to be self-sustainable. I'm going to get solar powers. Like, I'm going to go and buy land. So everybody's values are kind of up for reevaluation, right?
It's a revolution. Everything you just described is revolution. This is the culmination, and because everything is cause and effect with Saturn and everything. So everything we're experiencing now is the culmination of the French and American revolutions that drove out monarchies and brought in democracies. And now, all the cultures and immigrants and like colonials and settlers that through the generations came through, it's all coming back around. And, a lot of these issues are based around tax. So,
it's kind of hard to. I feel like the IRS has a whole other thing coming.
Oh yeah, new protocol, and no one's gonna see it coming, and it's just gonna spark war. But the thing with when we say war, when we say these crazy terms, I think a major feature of this is on the outset you're gonna expect the worst, but you're going to get the best. Like, there is going to be war, but maybe you might think millions of people will die. And even if they do, the outcome, I think, is going to be like silver lining amazing. It's like, this had to happen so that what happens next happens. But I think that a lot of people will think that the outcome will be way worse than what it actually is. Although that's just an opinion, but...
Well, it's like all, really preparing us, I think, for Pluto's ingress into Aquarius. And I think that we're going to find that...
Exactly.
The way... I mean, there's no doubt that there's massive wealth inequality in the world going on. I mean, it's just mind-boggling to me, like, how there can be so many people who are starving and hungry and homeless, and so many people who it's just ignorance is bliss, and they're just, like, driving around the world and, Maseratis, and they just don't give a fuck. It's just...
Well, thankfully, Elon Musk is going to save all of us and cure world hunger. But
well, if somebody can come up with a plan, yeah.
Well, there's proposals, but see, and that's just crazy because, one thing you said so importantly, the North Node in Taurus, the only sole purpose for North Node in Taurus is to get you ready for Pluto Aquarius. That's it. Because this is the last, and I didn't realize that because it moves backwards, right?
Yeah.
Taurus is the last sign before we start in Aries again, but go into Pisces, and the South North Node Aries is going to bring in the Pluto Aqua and prepare for Saturn and Neptune in Aries.
I think the shift in how we perceive what it is to be wealthy
so true
is going to be interesting. I don't foresee a future where we have like lots of Instagram models being on yachts like in the south of France or these mega mansions. I think what is going to be hip and trendy is, well, look what I can do without. And I say that actually more because
so true.
The Mars-Pluto conjunction, the Mars-Pluto conjunction that's going to happen with Venus is going to start a new trend. And so that's interesting because you've got, Mars, Venus, and Pluto coming together. And so that's going to start this new...
conjunctions, new cycles, new trends. Yeah.
So Capricorn is like... oh, we keep the house at, fucking 60 degrees so we can keep down our heating bill, or like, oh, we ration food, or like, it's very conservative, it's very restricting, it's very traditional, and it's cold. But the trines that it's making to the North Node makes me feel like the rationing, the cutting back, the being more conservative is the direction where we're going, which is kind of maybe getting back to old values. Maybe you're going to see, like, on the flip side, people are like...
there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that.
Like, things kind of shifting.
There's a lot of... and this is why this is a social revolution, because more than ever, you hear this talk about men are women and women are men now, which, is just very fascinating. It's not entirely true, but there's a lot of truth to it.
Right.
And... there's such a hardcore reversion or return to traditional values, which I think is going to be very amazing because it's going to balance a lot of what's happened, because hard times make strong men. But, this is the land of uncharted territory. Jupiter in Pisces is, by May, you're in the promised land. And so relative to that, imagine a program being created and coded right now, and this Saturn energy and Pluto energy is the government's and authority figures' issue with regulating it. What we're stepping into cannot be regulated, and this is going to open up a crazy can of worms. Maybe it's the metaverse, maybe it's blockchain, maybe it's something that we don't see now, but this period of time is where the coding is finished and it's real.
I definitely feel like it's connected to crypto and blockchain.
Absolutely.
Because we look at like the Mercury-Saturn conjunction in the midst of these transits in March, where the government may be realizing that people are bypassing paying taxes because they're moving so much of their money and they're doing transactions via cryptocurrency that they may realize they're missing out on so much that...
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I just heard yesterday that if you hold in Vegas... like, if I made money on cryptocurrency and I hold that for a year in Vegas, it's a capital gain. I don't have to tax it.
Move to Nevada. I don't know. I can't speak on that because I don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me that people really start seeing ways to find loopholes in the tax system, South Node and Scorpio,
Yep.
to kind of underride and undermine the IRS to be able to like bring in more wealth, or where, you know, there is some incentive to buy land and grow crops, or I don't know. I think land is going to become a lot more valuable. I think it'll surprise a lot of people. I mean, you know, there's no doubt like some of the wealthiest people in the planet are all buying up massive amounts of land. They have been for a while, knowing what's coming, that whoever controls the earth, whoever is in control of the food supply and all of that is really going to be king.
Yep. This is the perfect time. And I don't want to say it's the perfect time to buy into real estate. You will have opportunities to get into real estate. Take them.
But people think real estate and they think like, oh, I'm buying a house and I'm going to flip it, turn it into an Airbnb. Like I go, no, you want to find like acres in Arkansas that's got like, you know, dirt that doesn't have a bunch of shit in the minerals, that has not been contaminated, and clean water sources. That's what you want, right? It's not, oh, I'm going to buy a condo and be a slumlord. No, it's, you want to buy somewhere where you can like be able to grow food and live off the land, and you want to learn about gardening and composting. Oh, you live in a city. Cities are going to be a thing of the past pretty soon. Right.
And we might come back. So the whole notion of cities being a thing of the past, in like 17, 20 years, people will go back to cities. So there is going to be that shift coming back to social. But what's so important is two things, you know, with the land and owning the land, or even outside of the land, like, there we go with the land. This is specific for Pluto Scorpios. That South Node is you striking oil. Like imagine you find land and there's oil that now you own.
Right.
And it's kind of infinite, right? And then the second thing is with Saturn squaring this in Aquarius, Saturn Aquarius brought these clubhouses, these Discord groups where you have a bunch of people coming together as a community and sharing knowledge, sharing how we can all win. And so that South Node Scorpio, like Candace said, is going to provide government loopholes that these private groups share. And it's going to be a thing, you know?
I think it's also going to bring a lot of potential money to people who have Pluto and Scorpio, who can come up with solutions for what we do with trash. We may be finding that there's a big business in trash or recycling, or actually finding parts and pieces and learning to fix things and go back and mend things. But equally, like what somebody may consider traditionally as oil, striking gold may be that you buy a landfill and all of the scrap metal and everything that gets sorted through there can be recycled for a profit, or maybe all of those pieces can be sold,
reappraised.
So it's funny, like the Pluto and Scorpio generation definitely, like, you know, one man's trash is another man's treasure type stuff.
Like selling air and wind for $20,000, which has actually happened. So like, you know, it's just ridiculous. But once again, like with that Saturn square, there's that community. This is the return of the Susu. So like with North Node and Taurus, instead of paying Target and Amazon your money, you're going to have like 6 millionaires who build chains and they all refer customers to each other.
Right.
And they're cutting out the bigger and middle man.
It could be like communal land buying too. So like where the government might start limiting like how much land you can own or where you can build. It kind of reminds me of like Walt Disney when he built Disneyland. He like had a bunch of people buy up land under, you know, their names and then like sell it to him, so like nobody knew what was going on. I get the vibe that like certain groups and individuals are going to want to undermine what the government is saying you can do, or how much land you can own, and people are going to come together and go, we can't fucking afford to, you know, buy several acres on our own, but if we do it together, and if we have a homestead and we do this and you do that, and everybody kind of communally gives back, you know, we can create change. Same thing. I'm seeing so many of my friends that are like, you know, it's most major cities in America. It's like I read a thing yesterday that said it's at least around 65 to 80% of individuals within those major cities cannot afford to own a house. Like this is a real problem. Like the American dream is shot to shit. Like most people can't do that. But people are getting together and going, well, my best friend and I bought a house and we're flipping it, or we're living together. So think you're going to see more of that stuff in the future.
And an increase of wealth, but maybe inflation too. And
That's already happening.
You're right.
We're going to see the results of it finally, though,
Exactly,
and that it's been suppressed, and that the market has been bumped up, and yeah, it's not possible. It's all been kind of propped up, which is scary when you think about it, because then ultimately when that does start to break down, it's going to be something like we have not seen in our lifetimes. But I think of the Pluto and Scorpio generation, and like, man, like we've seen it all when you think about just
really?
everything, 9/11, and then everything that happened right around the time that we were graduating in 2008, like the market kind of breakdown then, and just
Iraq War.
Not much really kind of surprises us anymore. So I've talked to a lot of Pluto and Scorpio people who were just kind of like, yeah, let it all burn, we'll start over.
No, straight up. And Pluto Sagittarius. I saw a meme that was like, Pluto Sagittarius, I'm gonna change the world, and then someone's like, for the better, right? And Sagittarius is like, and you're like, right? I see you, Pluto Sag. So they're ready. They're waiting for the Saturn return.
It's been so interesting just to see the Pluto and Sag generation kind of go through that, and being a Pluto and Scorpio, I'm interested to see how that kind of works out for us too. But I think that we realize that in order for there to be like new beginnings, there has to be death and transformation. So we didn't speak a lot on it, but I think that this is just going to open up a lot in terms of our perspective of death and the afterlife, and realizing that there isn't as much fear about death and
afterlife technologies like talk boxes that actually work. I'm fed up of seeing these talk boxes of, I'm channeling dead spirits. That's fake. But we're going to finally have technology. Like I might build technology where instead of paying
spirits.
You're right. You can pay, like you pay Verizon monthly. Like we can connect you to the after. Like I got Moon on Neptune and Uranus. She has Sun on Pluto. We're directly connected to the afterlife, so we can
connecting you to Grandma for
you can buy like
flat
minutes
fee of
for
$59.99,
and you can talk to her every time. And it's not a familiar spirit; it's actually their spirit. Okay, she's Hades. I'm Hermes. We can connect to and communicate with the dead. There you go.
Can you imagine that? Like that you can do that? Like
Celestial
it's like
technologies.
I'm interested. I want to learn more about the afterlife. I'm very fascinated, and just the true node has not moved yet as we're filming this, but post the eclipse that we had in November, I've been thinking about that a lot, and I've already had some very kind of surreal experiences with just like loss. Just kind of like wrapping up loss that's been going on for a little while.
Yeah.
So,
but I would say in conclusion, very fascinating points too. The best part to really understand about this is the end. This is the the beginning of the end. This North Node in Taurus is going to prepare you for the beginning of the end. So like when the financial market crashes, when the government collapses, don't freak out. This happened before America became a country, before France became independent. There were massacres. It was a revolution. Monarchies crashed. You had the Napoleonic Wars. So like, this is just the end of an old world, and we're entering this utopian ideal that we've been dreaming of. And hopefully we won't all die of nuclear holocaust before then, because it is a possibility. In that
I think we're gonna have a breakdown of nuclear energy. I think there's gonna be more nuclear diffusion.
That'd be
honestly
awesome.
I'm hoping that that's the case.
Yeah,
so
that'd be super awesome.
Obviously we did not get a chance to get to talking about all of the signs. We'll do another video on this. We'll do it closer to the eclipses. Let you guys know how it's gonna be affecting you.
Yeah.
Probably especially in April, right when we're seeing these Saturn squares. We'll start talking to you guys about what the nodal changes mean. But in the meantime, look for where the North Node is in Taurus in your chart. That's what you're focusing on, restructuring and innovating your values, especially all the way up until about August of this year. Look where Aquarius is in your chart. That's where you're being challenged to work as a group to be able to achieve those goals, because, well, Uranus rules Aquarius and it's conjuncting in Taurus with the North Node. So it's going to take other people to kind of rebuild, so to say.
And, I think the most important part about the North Node and destiny is that in Uranus, I can tell that you're destined to join level 1 and level 2, but really level 3 and level 4. So like,
he's beating that drum, huh? That's fine.
My Taurus is activated.
He's like, call me now.
Call me now.
Please do consider joining our
Yes.
memberships, though.
Why wouldn't you?
Or
Why
our
wouldn't you?
lives. It
You know
really
what I'm
makes
saying?
it possible for us to keep doing what we're doing.
You can spend that money on crack, but instead you're buying a membership. You know what
Just
I'm
buy
saying?
half the amount of crack. And if
Yeah,
you
there
are
you
going to
go.
do crack, go on the live and ask us questions because it's very entertaining. Fuck.
Word.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Let us know where are the nodes moving in your chart. What are you excited to see happen? Leave us comments below. We are so stoked to be on season 2 of the Midheaven podcast. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see all of you very soon. Take care.
Peace.